Hello, welcome to Azure Crash Course. This is Benjamin Family. In this video series, I'm going to talk about Azure API Management. Azure API Management is a type of platform as a service resource, which means part of that responsibility of maintaining it is delegated and managed by Microsoft Azure itself. To put it in a simple word, API management is a medium that getting a traffic, HTTP traffic, and pass it out to your real API application. This diagram might be a little bit too simple for the API management, but it's a good way to start of understanding what its main duty is. It's like a front end that has a one IP address that all consumer talking with that IP address, with that FQDN, and not to multiple application or multiple product. And from that place, you maintain your own different products, different APIs, and consolidate all of those. The thing to consider is API management can be public and can be private. This is a sample API. It gets the speaker ID in the front end, it processes it and sends it to the back end, and pass it to this URL. It acts like a proxy here, and that URL respond back to your operation. Whatever FQDN that you have behind this speaker here, it's your custom domain, and if you have like a SKU that is able to have a custom domain. This backend URL is not hosted inside of API management. This is a Microsoft provided sample API, and I'm guessing this is sitting in app services. In real world case scenarios, you put your own API web app address or any internal URL can be, and you create multiple API based on those. And as you see, you can clone your own API, you can have different version and revision. Each operation can be cloned, delete, and then you can have a revision for each operation and have a control over publishing it or not publishing it. There is a tree term that is interchangeably used in different Azure API management slides, shows, videos, YouTubes, and talking about different aspect of API gateway. I can say it to be short. We have a Azure portal, we have a API consumer access portal, and we have a like the whole engine that part of the configuration as you see is here, and part of them as you can find it's inside of the setting and inside of this API product, and maybe little of them in authentication and notifications. I think this logical dividing, it might not help us during this course. What are those? But I like to show you some pictures that show what terms are used and what do I mean. These are the three sections: developer portal, management plane, API gateway, and also gateway can be called as a proxy. The developer portal can be called as a consumer access portal, and manage or Azure portal is another term. The reason I'm showing you this because you might see it in different documents. For example, this is a Microsoft document and talking about, okay, the consume part is a developer portal that I'm going to show you momentarily. The publisher is the publishing is a Azure portal, and the green one on the are consumer, whoever wants to access to your API management. On the back end, and in the very bottom, you see the services, those really apps that's sitting on multiple platform. Or in other picture, Microsoft categorize different services instead of API gateway, or like call it as a core component like this. I'd be a little bit confusing for you. You just need to know we have a portal for consumer which is like this, and you can customize it based on your need, and consumer can see your product. If you hold the control and click enter, see different product of yours, and if they choose the product, they see the list of API. As you see here, like getting a speaker. Okay, it's sending ID to the speaker, and you can try it even here by like putting the subscription key, and ID. This API is not like anonymous. It's not publicly free that you can anonymously query it. You need a subscription key, and subscription key comes from here. You have like a multiple level, and each one has its own subscription key. You might notice when I was showing you the API itself, or the place that we compose our API, there was like two places that we call it policy. Actually, the main thing, in my opinion, that API management, except being a facade and having a single point, is having this functionality of policies. You have a list of policy. You want to add something. Okay, you see the list of policies, and you can even see, learn more about them. There is like a big list of many policies that Azure has. Is always in doc.microsoft. It's a policy reference instead of API management documentation. But how to use it? For example, you want to filter IP address. You just click that one, and you allow IP or block IP, and you put something, for example, 4.4.4.4, and save it. And it's like an allowed IP for inbound processing. This is the user interface that we see here. It was like a UI that you can select, and like a wizard type, but you always can see the code inside of it. It's an XML code. It's as you see, it sits in an inbound. It's a policy that let this IP traverse to your API gateway, and it's a allow, and it's an inbound. And as always, you're more than welcome to start adding your policies here. The good thing is you can click on this insert policy, and you see the list of the policies, and you want to choose, for example, authentication with basic. And if you hover over it, says, okay, this authentication basic, it sits at the scope of API. I'm going to explain this about the scopes. Or for example, you want to do URL rewrite. URL rewrite is like sending one pad to another pad. It's like a pad-based routing kind of. It sits, as you see, it sits in the inbound, and if you click on it, unfortunately put it here, not in the inbound automatically, but you can grab it and bring it here and put it in the inbound. Policies can apply on different scope. It can apply on the operation, or like each operation can have a policy that you define it. A get a speaker or get /bar need to have a caching. It can apply to the API level itself, like the place that we compose the API. It can apply to the product, which a product can consist of multiple or multiple APIs, and a API can be member of multiple products. And it can apply at the global level. Like you want to do the login, do it at the global level. You want to do the rate limit, you can do it at the product level. But it doesn't prevent you to use this rate inside of the API. And as you see, there is like two sections. It's coming from the caller and go to the backend, and it's coming from backend and going to the caller. It's like inbound and outbound. About the security, API management out of the box have some functionality like encryption, authentication, and you can manage your own subscription, users, group. But the thing here that I'd like to explain is a API management can sit or not sit inside of the virtual network of yours. And then if you make it as a part of your virtual network, it does not necessarily mean that you made it private. You can have a public API management sitting in your virtual network, and you might ask why. The reason is you can then ask NSG to that specific subnet, and inside of that subnet, you have more control. For example, if you do the force tunneling and you have your own load balancer of your choice, your fileware or IDS or IPS of choice, and you want to force tunnel the whole traffic of API management to that one, you're welcome to do that. However, it might create a complexity in your architecture. Consumer can authenticate with your API using user and password, Microsoft accounts, and this can be a Microsoft Active Directory, Azure Active Directory, or Azure Active Directory B2C. I'll actually be put it in the bottom. And it can be any other federated with other services like well-known services. You can use OAuth. You might hear when I was using the term product, and also the product here when we were showing you that this demo conference is sitting inside of a product that was, if you remember, was unlimited product. Uh, you can have your own product. You can control it that it's in a published mode or not, and start having a different API and adding your own APIs inside of those products. The good thing about product that you can have a different subscription based on the product. You can have access control and having a group and user based on those. And the policies, as we discussed, can be defined in a scope of the product as well. There are other areas that I would like to show you. The first thing is you might see some notification templates that here that it belongs to Azure consumer portal. You see that there is a repository. You can connect your API management to your Git. For identity, I can show you that there is a way that username and password is one of them that comes out of the box, and there is other way that you can do it. You can use your own certificate. You can have define your own custom CA here, and the one important part is VNet. You want to add your API to your VNet. You come here and you choose. It's not a part of VNet. It's totally a PaaS services that doesn't talk with any VNets and doesn't sit any subnets. Or you can choose it to make it public or private. And if you even choose the private, you will get a public IP address, because as always, any PaaS services, it's a rule of thumb, any PaaS services need to talk with the control plane of PaaS services inside of Microsoft Azure. Then even though you choose the internal, you cannot lock it down to with all ports. This is a PaaS services, means that part of the maintenance of it, it's in the hand of Microsoft. Then you can have a custom domain, and you can use the same, as always, it's good that you can use a managed identity that Microsoft provides instead of the Azure. And the next thing is about the monitoring part. You have the out-of-the-box monitoring that comes with the Azure Monitor, like different metric, but the good thing is, same as app services or web apps, you have an app Insight. You can go to your app Insight, you can create your own app Insight, and browse to it and trace back errors. You see the like a application map. What's happening inside of your API? It talks. How long does it take? Where does those failures? Where does those failures? How many of those HTTP response you're getting, and which URL is getting that? And you can check your performance. You have a live metrics. It's like a whole app inside the stack that binded to your API management. You find a SKU, you find the SKU of a standard best suitable for you, and you have a capability to scale. As I remember, it was like 5 for standard, the professional was 5, and the premium was 10. You have a option that you can auto scale and have a rule and say if it hits this rate, you can go to the next level. And we were talking about the SKUs. These are like a list of SKU. We have developer, basic, standard, and premium. And actually, we don't have professional. I think I was wrong in the whole video about that. And premium and a developer has most close future if you see it. And there are like a minor thing, like a multi-region and multiple custom domain that is not provided in developer. And I think it totally makes sense. But with a developer, you can start testing and do the proof of concepts with having like being inside of the VNet, having a static IP, do the backup, having a different like a certification scenarios, because pricing for Azure government cloud, the commercial cloud is going to be much less, like 3,500 for premium is going to be 2,900. There are a couple of routes that we might need to be extra careful about them. One is caching, another one is the SLA, and another one is the amount of requests. But one of the reasons customer use cloud is the scaling capability, that you can scale up, scale out based on the need, and on different season pay for different pricing when the storage come. API management has out of the box 5 SKU. The consumption, you need to make your mind. If you want to go with the consumption, there is no switching between the SKU of consumption. It's like a serverless type of request. Or if you want thinking to have an application that is totally designed that way, then you go with the consumption. We have developer, then I'm guessing it's not for production, and we have basic, standard, and premium. They're like a 3 main SKU that you probably fall in those categories. The basic SKU, you have a functionality to go to up to 2 instances. The standard up to 5 and the premium is up to 10, and you can define it here and go to up to 10. If you notice, when I choose the premium, you have a functionality to choose different location, like choose number of instances per location. And also you can have new location. The good thing is you can have it like you have it in the US East, you want to go, okay, in the US East 2, US West, and actually US West, I guess it's a per region of US East. Then you can have US West like 1 unit. I would like to talk about the highly available scenarios in API management. There are a couple of ways that we can do like a better robust design for API management. One is the multi-region that I just showed you. If you have a premium SKU, you're more than welcome to use that. But what if you want to use a standard SKU, but you want to have a highly available? Then you deploy API management per region. The scenario is going to be like this. You have a redundancy. You need to have a failover policy inside of your API management number 1 on the top, and you say if it's failed, the function on the top, it goes to the next Azure function. You can have multiple instances in multiple region, but the catch here is, if you notice, the consumer that the person picture over there, he need to have access, and he need to have this access to both API, and he need to know inside of the application design in a way that switch or fail over to the next one. It might come to mind that this is not the best scenario of that you can design it. Imagine that the person who wants to consider the cost, and cost is the major factor here, then you go with a standard SKU and you do this redundancy. Then for the more enterprise level application, you can use, and it's like, I'm guessing it's like a application that is not, if it's big enough that not just for internal use, it can be a more like a public application that you want to publish it and you want to have a many customer across the world and maybe different region, even in one continent. Then you might think about some global level load balancing solutions like Azure Front Door and Traffic Manager. Yes, you can use application gateway for your regional load balancing case scenarios, and the picture is going to be like this. Like we have a traffic manager sitting in front of 2 API management, and API management can talk on different backends. Here you can have traffic manager, or you can have front door, but these are more like published public websites, APIs. If you want to have internal use, you're more than welcome to use application gateway, and that can do that. The major difference between these two, the traffic manager and the front door, is at the time that it takes to switch and failover. Traffic manager is a DNS, it has a delay, but the front door claimed that it's going to be close to live switching. And as you see, front door is a 7-layer, and traffic manager is not 7-layer. This is a front door. I would like to point out one interesting thing here. You might hear about the web application firewall, or OWASP, and those 10 rules or 10 areas to prevent any attacks on your applications. The front door has this functionality that you can create a WAF policy and bind it to your front door. And this is going to be harden your API in much better way.